everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday. Trying to figure out how to get this off the screen. Please hold for 1 second. Okay, can you guys see it okay? Thumbs up. Greg, you're the only one I can see, so I need your thumbs up if we're doing everything right. Awesome. Okay, so really just want to have a conversation with you guys today about social media marketing and really everything that entails. Let me try and there it goes. Okay. I have a presentation for you guys. It'll last about 30 to 40 minutes or so. And just understand I'm here for you guys. So I can sit here and talk about myself for the next 45 minutes or talk about a bunch of social media content, but really just understand I'm here for you today. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, I'd love to hear those. So feel free to put some in the chat or just raise your hand. I might not be able to see everything chat, but seriously jump in because I want to turn this into conversation because again, I want to see Nebraska grow. And I was lucky enough to present at the last Grow Nebraska conference, which was just probably about a month and a half ago. And they asked me back for an encore. So I must have said something right. So without getting started, just want to give a quick introduction to who I am and what my business is. So hi, I'm Adam. I work at redthread. So what redthread is in its simplest form is a creative advertising agency. But I want to say that we're way more than that. So I want to tell you that quick story. We started off small in 2014 in a 200 square foot office. You guys actually know what 200 square feet looks like. It's really small. This is our entire office space, and it came from very humble beginnings. I worked at I'm from the Chicagoland area originally, and I worked at a couple of hotshot agencies in town. So think of companies like Arch Rival or Bailey Lauerman. I don't know if you've heard of those guys before. And that allowed me to work on accounts like Adidas, Red Bull, VeggieTales. So I got to work on a lot of cool stuff over the years. And when I realized what I was being paid and what they were billing me at, I'm like, I should probably start freelancing. So as I was graduating college, I launched redthread in 2014 as a little freelance business. And now in 2022, the freelance business has grown a lot. So this is looking at my team now in 2022. We're lucky enough to be a 36-person creative shop, and we were awarded Inc. Magazine's 1,853rd fastest growing company in America and 112 in the Midwest. So we're doing some cool stuff, and we're working with a lot of clients in the Midwest and in Nebraska. I'll touch on that in a second. But really, the question I get most often is, most people have heard about an advertising agency before, right? What makes redthread different? Well, instead of building prepackaged ads and solutions, we develop custom marketing campaigns and creative advertising to solve our clients' problems. And the question I get off that is really, what is creative advertising? Well, I tell people creative advertising is really used to get people's attention, make them take action, right? Where do we go? Do we drive someone to a store? Do we drive someone to a website? Do we tell our story? How do we actually make someone emotional and invested in a brand, and how do we get them to take the action we were hoping to get them to take in the first place? And all your businesses are different, but chances are there's a goal at the end of the day to try and make something happen. So last definition, every business is different, but shares the same fundamental growth goals. So here are the projects we end up getting hired for most often, right? Brand or customer acquisition. So that's like a B2C campaign. So think about that as we need to drive more people to a restaurant. Customer employee retention, right? We're really happy where we're at right now, but we want to keep our people around. Brand awareness, people don't know we exist. Decision maker lead gen, B2B. So that's how we get an IT company in the room with a CFO to make a pitch, right? We do a lot of lead gen. And then fifth, and probably most popular one right now, which I can touch on too if you guys are curious, just let me know, is employee recruiting, right? Employee recruiting is so significant right now because there's so many businesses in Nebraska that are struggling to hire. Not to their fault. It's just chances are people don't know your story yet, right? So we're working with companies like Allo, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. We work with companies like Chief Industries out of Grand Island. We're with Kawasaki here in their Nebraska, Missouri plants. Bryan Health, the hospital system here in Lincoln. Let's see, who else are we working with right now? Community Action Partnership of Lincoln, Lancaster County. And also Grand Island Public Schools. That's also a really fun one. So all these companies are coming to us to help them recruit employees. And then employee might be a teacher, might be a carpenter, might be a technician. But we're building these ad and pieces of creative to make all that happen. And to give you an idea of who else we work with, here's a look at our client list. From Round the Bend Steakhouse, which we'll touch on later, all the way to Flagship Restaurant Group, which is concepts like Blue Sushi, Roja, concepts you might be familiar with in the eastern part of Lincoln or Nebraska, all the way to Google. We've done so many different projects, and we're really proud of every single one of the clients we work with. And to wrap this all up, what else can you do? We also do a la carte pieces like video, social media, digital marketing, websites, design, branding, pretty simple stuff. And that's on a request basis. And what's our vision statement to wrap all this up is to rid the world of shitty advertising. So let's get started. So let's talk about social media, right? That's why you all are in the room today. So to start, to give you the basis about how significant social media is, here are the fun facts to get you guys like talking and thinking about this. So why is social media important? That's a really good question I get. 87% of consumers are more likely to make a purchase of a product or services after they've heard about them, right? That seems like a no-brainer, but at the end of the day, if you bought something that you weren't familiar with, that was probably more skeptical purchase that you made, right? And when you start to engage with the product that already exists, that you know that's around, you become more familiar with it. I promise you, your favorite brands are someone you're super familiar with, and social media is a really easy way to make sure you tell that story. And then also, we spend so much time on it, right? This is a really scary stat. It gets worse, don't worry. The average American spends 2.5 hours a day of their waking time on social media, right? Where average Americans awake for what, 16, 17 hours a day. We spend about 2.5 hours on it a day. That's a lot of your time. So just understand this is a very, very relevant part of the American life, and it'll continue to get, that number is continue going up every year. So that's it's good news and bad news. Where it gets even scarier is the average Gen Z spends about 4 hours on it a day. That's largely driven by TikTok and really the uprise of TikTok and really where it's going, which we can talk about here in a minute. But these numbers don't make you go, wow, this is important. I don't know what else to tell you. This might not be the presentation for you, but I want you to know this is a pretty significant number. Pop quiz. I want you guys to unmute yourself. What are the 2 most used search engines in the world? I bet you guys can name one, but I'm curious if you guys can name 2.
Google and Bing.
Google's one of them. Bing is not number 2. That's a good guess, Greg. Who knows number 2? I'll give you a hint. It's a social media platform.
Someone said TikTok.
TikTok is climbing, but it's not number 2. Number 2 is YouTube, right? YouTube is something that a lot of people are using because they want to see something visual, right? YouTube is considered a social media platform that so many people are spending their time on to engage with creators, to engage with like various DIY projects. They want to learn more. So not only is it becoming a part of our daily life, it's becoming a tool we use to learn things, right? That's so important. And then here's the best news. The average social media cost is much lower than any traditional medium, right? So you've heard about traditional media like TV, print, radio. But when you hear about social media, it's significantly cheaper. So I'm going to give you 2 definitions and actually throw some stats at you about how much cheaper it actually is. So 2 definitions I want you guys to learn today. One called CPC, which stands for cost per click. Cost per click means you're paying for an ad when somebody actually clicks on it, right? It's not dependent on how many people see it. It's when somebody actually clicks on it. And then CPM, which looks like it should say cost per million, actually means cost per 1,000. So when 1,000 people see your ads, what does that actually cost? So let's dive into the CPC for social media ads, right? Here it is in most like blunt term I can make it, right? So Facebook, almost $1 per click. Instagram, $3.50 a click. YouTube, $3.20 a click. LinkedIn, that's pretty expensive, $5.20 a click. But look at TikTok, right? TikTok's less than like what, 20% of Facebook. That is a significant stat, right? And when you get someone to click, usually that means they're intentionally going to your page to learn something. And if you're paying 19 cents to engage a potential promising customer, that seems like a pretty good worthwhile spend of your dollars, right? 19 cents is pretty insignificant, but LinkedIn, when you talk about a smaller demographic, because not everyone has LinkedIn, that becomes a little bit more significant. But again, those people are probably more professional, more qualified. So let's talk about cost per 1,000. Facebook, $7 for 1,000 impressions. Instagram, about $7 or $8 for 1,000 impressions. YouTube, $10 for 1,000 impressions. LinkedIn, $6 for 1,000 impressions, and TikTok, $10 per 1,000 impressions. You guys are looking at me, you're like, oh, that seems like, oh, TikTok's more expensive. But if you think about it, at the end of the day, you're running an ad at 1,000+ people, right? And you're paying about $10 at max. Does that seem like a pretty good deal? I think it does. And when you look at those pieces and actually the cost per 1,000 impressions, that really means you have a ton of merit to really get things going. Tanya, I see a lot of chat popping up. I can't open it. Is there any questions that people have at this current time?
They have no questions at the time.
Yeah, I see the number continue to grow. We're at 8 and I can't open the damn chat button. So we'll keep going. So here's where you guys, and I have a slide about this, but here's where I want you guys to start taking notes, right? This is the part where I'm actually going to give you guys a marketing plan, what we actually use at redthread to build a plan around social media, right? So we call this a creative brief. So a creative brief is a quick summary and a strategy to accomplish what we're trying to achieve with the business, right? So for example, chief industries might say, hey, we need to recruit more people. I need you to build us a plan to help make that happen. So here's the actual process we go through and the things we look through to actually get to that point. For those visual learners, we're going to talk about case studies. And last, Q&A to answer all your hot takes and questions. So any questions before I jump into it? Okay, we'll keep rolling. So good news about today is I can help you build a social media plan. Yay, that's why we're all here. Bad news is just understand every company is different and should be treated as such. So use this guide to help develop your own social media plan. I would love to say, yes, I can develop a social media plan for an insurance company today, a restaurant, and a chiropractor, but just understand every organization is different, and we're going to try and apply a general plan for all those. So here's my list of Adam's 5 things you should think about to make your social media plan awesome. And quick definition, what is a creative brief? It's our guide to make sure we're thinking critically and creatively about a project, right? There's so many different components about what goes into a marketing plan. I want you guys to make sure you're thinking creatively and critically about it to make sure you're building yourself as a sophisticated company. So what is that process we follow in our social media plan? It's strategy, then create, right? The biggest mistake I see with so many businesses is the fact that they're saying, oh, we just bought a bunch of billboard ads, or we bought a bunch of, or we prepaid for Google or something like that. That is not the first step of the process, right? The first step is understanding your customer. Think about what your customer cares about. Because if you go ready, fire, aim, I promise you that plan won't be as effective. So simply put, think about the strategy. Who's your customer? What do they care about? What's the story you want to tell that should get your customer to pay attention? And then where does that story live? Because I promise you, if you build this long story that tells about how great your business is, and then you say, yep, we just bought a bunch of billboards, chances are that story won't fill out a bunch of billboards. So let's make sure that we can come up with the strategy, then the story, and then actually create. So here's the part where you start taking notes. Let's build a creative brief. You guys ready? Cool. So first question that I always ask, what are your business goals? Do we need customers? Do we need employees? Do we need to get people into our store? Like, what is the actual goal we're trying to solve, right? Marketing, I tell everyone, is an investment, right? Sometimes it pays off a bunch, sometimes it pays off a little. Chances are it will always go in the right direction. How much is to be determined, right? So think about what that business goal is. And then second, I want you guys to build a SWOT analysis. Who knows what a SWOT analysis is?
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. Heather, I saw you're about to jump in too. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? This is a very simple way to summarize the current state of the situation. What are the strengths of your company? What are the weaknesses that we don't want to talk about? What are the real opportunities to grow? And what are the threats that are keeping you, holding you back, or things that we should be considering? So next question I ask is, how much money are we spending versus the potential ROI, right? All right, so this becomes a little more jargony. Think about how much money you guys want to invest into marketing. If you're a company that has a large ticket item, chances are marketing will be an easier dollar for you guys to spend, right? So if you're selling, for example, we have a company that we work with in Lincoln, and they have an office in Norway. I think they're headquartered out in Norway, called Hexagon, right? Hexagon sells these cylinders that transport natural gas. Every cylinder costs about $500,000, right? So for us to show an ROI in that marketing is pretty simple if we sell a couple of them a year. So that's a really big piece of like what we're actually doing for marketing is we understand the ROI is huge. The upside's huge. But when we talk about a restaurant, for us to sell a net profit $3 to $4 burger, that seems like a much higher risk than actually a big manufacturing company. So always think about what the potential of your growth is to allocate how much money you invest. And I'm not sure if I have this in my presentation later, but I want you guys to know the average company in Nebraska invests anywhere from like I've seen anywhere from 1 to 9% of their gross revenue on marketing, right? Most business books tell you 10 to 15. I think it's extremely aggressive, but I mean, 1 to 9% should be something that you guys can allocate towards a marketing budget, especially that marketing is growing the business. Okay. Last on the first section is overall, what is success, right? How do we decide if we've achieved our goals? KPI stands for key performance indicator, meaning that like if we sell 14 cylinders, will be successful. If we get 200 new customers, will be successful. Like, what are those actual goals we're trying to achieve, and how do we know that it's actually working? It's a really important question to ask all of our colleagues that are going to this marketing endeavor. So next, number 2, who is our audience we need to attract, right? This is talking about the demographic. Who is our audience? Age, gender, location. Who are these people? One of the best parts about social media is you know all these people because you're able to like target them specifically. So here's kind of an open-ended qualitative question. Why is social media free? As a consumer, not as a marketer, but as a consumer. Heather, muted if you're saying something.
The ads.
The ads. That's a great answer. Anyone else have other thought too? So the ads are great.
The user is the product.
Vaughn, that's a great description as well. That's almost exactly what I was going to say. The user is the product, right? You are being paid, or you're going on these social media platforms that are free because you're becoming the product of these marketers, right? Whether you put it on your Facebook or not, I promise you Facebook knows what political party you affiliate with. I promise it knows where you live. I promise it knows generally how much money you make, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is. You do not have to specifically put these things on your feed for this AI to know, right? This should excite you a little bit and also scare you a little bit, because the reality of it is Big Brother is here, right? There's no way of getting around that. I want you guys to know that unless you're ready to smash all your electronic devices, you are being observed by these platforms. That's what AI is. But the real comment is though, they're building these ad sets to know that, okay, Greg's a huge Boston Red Sox fan, right? And he lives in the 68508 zip code, and he runs this business, and he qualifies for let's see, he really likes mountain biking, right? You can start to laser target those individuals and tell that story to those people specifically. And if you think about the amount of power you're holding in your hand to talk to those specific people, when it becomes truly granular, the possibilities are truly infinite, right? I hope I don't scare you guys with the Big Brother comment, but I want you guys to have a reality check about where the current state of the world is as far as technology goes. You are the product of these social media platforms because it's aggregating your data. So marketers like us and business people here can run ads at those people. Is that helpful? Is that scary? Sound might be helpful. We'll see. All right. So talk about who these people are, right? That's what Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these things are aggregating, is who you are, so you can market to these people. Next, the question I want you guys to ask, where do they like to get their information from, right? Do they like to get their information from like a certain political party? Do they like to get their information from a I don't know, from an influencer, right? There's so many different ways they can receive this information, through an article. There's so many different levels of like education, intelligence, and understanding. They want you guys to understand where the demographic is coming from and just become empathetic, right? We're consumers too. How do we like being talked to? Do we like to learn from an influencer? Do we like to learn from a neighbor? Is there someone in Geneva, Nebraska that's a big influencer that you want to tap into, right? It totally depends on where you want to be and how you want to get that information out there. And then last question, I'm going to push you guys further. How do you narrow down this further? Greg is a Boston Red Sox fan that likes dogs, that's left-handed, right? I have no idea what that ad could be for, but I want you guys to understand you can get so specific with these things. One of my favorite stories, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get in trouble with one of my clients. It's a ag equipment company, a good sized ag equipment company, and the CEO goes, "Adam, I don't really know how these ads are performing because I never see the ads." I said, "Well, CEO, you live in Papillion. You are not our target audience to sell a $800,000 combine to your house in Papillion. I'm sorry." Reality check. So he was frustrated about that. So we spend a couple dollars a month to geofence his house so he sees the ads. We spend about $10 a month to make sure he sees the ads so he feels like we're doing something well. I'm not going to name names, but it's pretty funny. And I want you guys to understand that if somebody does not see the ads, it's generally because they're not in the demographic you're trying to target. But that is a real story, and I hope that you guys don't have to geofence your CEO's house, but understand that's a real thing that you can do. And lastly, what platforms do they engage with? I have another slide here in a couple pages that talk about what the age demographic breakdown for each platform is and their generalizations, so you guys can look through it. But just understand every person engages with different platforms, and we'll get to get to that in a second. Okay, is it okay if I keep going? Any questions? Okay, page 3. What content will drive interest and keep interest in my page, right? I'm going to give you 3 quick hacks that get the most engagement of any content we post, right? Hacks, very simple. Giveaways. People love free t-shirts, right? Tanya, I hope you have a lot of free Grow Nebraska t-shirts because I promise you this crowd will wear them. Really, free t-shirts, free swag. That costs you what? A t-shirt costs a business $10. Spend $10 and give away a t-shirt. And if you get 20,000 impressions on it, that seems like a good use of $10, don't we think? The answer would be yes. So giveaways are super easy to do, and I think they're super low-hanging fruit. But if you just say, hey, like and share for our page, we're going to give away a tumbler to a specific person. You don't need to get a Yeti cooler. Everyone wants a Yeti cooler, but you don't need to go that extravagant, right? Make this simple, make this fun. 2, has anyone heard of the page Humans of New York before? So Humans in New York is a great page to follow. It's a photojournalistic project that has a photographer going around snapping pictures of individuals in New York, and he tells their story, right? So that page, I'm pretty sure, has over 10 million followers on it. And one of the things I've taken away from that piece is people love to see humans on their social media pages. So snap a picture of your employee or one of your coworkers and just tell their story. What do they love about your company? What's a fun fact about themselves? The most engagement we ever get in our content is when I snap a picture of a new employee, right? Super simple, super straightforward. And if you tag them, guess what? That post then goes to the feed of all their friends, and the average Facebook user, I think, is anywhere from 600 to 800 friends. I think the number's gone up. And when you get a free impression of saying, hey, Jolene works at this place, this bank now, and Jolene now gets a bunch of traffic to their group page, that's generally a pretty good impression. Last, contest, right? People like contests. Guess the score of the Husker game. Guess the score of, I don't know. Nobody wants to guess the score of the Husker games anymore. It's usually not the right decision. Really just think about how you engage someone through a contest, right? That's super simple stuff. And those are 3 hacks I want you guys to take away that are super low hanging fruit that can make sure you guys tell your story to its fullest entirety. 2, how do we make our content shareable? Think about viral content. One of my favorite comments I get is, can you make my ad go viral? The answer is no, right? There's no secret sauce I can do to make an ad go viral. But think about, what do people care about, right? I just talked about them above, right? Giveaways, people, contests. If you're constantly posting a bunch of jargon that's industry specific and you look like the smartest person in the room, that's great. Probably you should be in a B2B industry where you're selling specifically to people who are smart in that industry, right? There's a great book by Gary Vee. He's a business guy, motivational speaker. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. The entire thesis of that book is really the idea of, if you go for the right hook immediately, which is pretty much asking for the sale, you're not going to win the business, right? You need to build up content. You give away stuff for free, give away knowledge, give away interest, right? And then eventually you can ask for the business. Gary Vee built his entire New York Times bestselling books off giveaway. Who has anyone seen Gary Vee content before? Yes, no, maybe so. He's a good follow. But really, he gives away all this like great business advice for free, motivational content, free. And then he goes, will you buy my book? And then he becomes a New York Times bestseller. Literally a very simple way to get to the top. So how do you make your content shareable? Think about how to make like relevant content. It doesn't have to go viral, but it's content that people should actually care about. How often do we post, right? That's a great question to think about. I don't believe there's different philosophies about this. So I'm going to share mine. All right. So just know there's different philosophies and a lot of them have merit. I believe in quality over quantity, right? There's some philosophies out there saying, oh, you should post 3 times a day. I could not be more annoyed by 3 times a day. I'm sorry if anyone does post 3 times a day, but I don't think you have that much relevant things to say where you're posting 1,000 times a year about your business, right? You have to be really intentional about the content you post. Major brands like Apple, Google, Nike, they post about 3 times a month and they make sure that ad is awesome. It's a video, it's a story, it's really inspirational stuff. They're really intentional about this. You might see the ads on the back end from Nike saying, here's a shoe sale, or here's a promotion from Google. The actual core stuff they post on the page is super infrequent and it's really great content. Who's familiar with influencers? Yes, no, maybe so. So influencers are generally a really easy way to get your message out there, right? One of the best ways to actually get an influencer on board is if you go to Instagram and type in Heather, what town are you in? You're muted, sorry. I just picked on you.
I'm in Fremont.
You're in Fremont, awesome. So if you go to Instagram and type in Fremont, Nebraska as the actual location and click on that, you'll see the top Instagram post from Fremont, Nebraska. So chances are the top Instagram posts are from someone who's relevant in that specific area. So if you reach out to them and say, hey, what can I do to have you promote my brand? Most of these people are asking for $50, $100. And think about the credibility of someone who has built a following of 20 to 30,000 people. You don't have to spend thousands to get an influencer on board. You just look at your specific location and say, hey, I'm here in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Click. What's the top post? Reach out to that person and say, can you post on my behalf? Can you do a sponsored post for me? Right? Super simple, low cost way to make things happen. What calls to action should I have? Right? At the end of every piece of content, Facebook sets this up for you too. You can say, click here to learn more, apply here, go to my website, check us out on Tuesday for a special. Like, make sure there's always a call to action. I think it's really important to have content that goes out there, but I want to make sure that content has a reason to drive someone to a specific place. Create the FOMO. What does FOMO stand for? I saw you mouth it, Heather. You want to say it?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, correct. Every brand that's become more exclusive continues to drive more success, right? We have a limited supply, we have a small quantity, we have a limited time offer, right? The more you can create the fear of missing out, the more that drives American behavior, right? I can't express to you enough, like most of the luxury and designer brands you pay for, the stuff that you're paying for is marginally better quality than what you get at like a department store. But it feels cooler to wear Louis Vuitton, right? I know we're in Nebraska, there's not a ton of Louis Vuitton, but I'm just using a low-hanging fruit example, than something from Target, right? But I promise you, the actual cost to manufacture goods from Louis Vuitton Target is not significant. I mean, we're talking 10, 20 bucks maybe, but I promise you the Target purse costs $20. I promise you that purse at Louis Vuitton costs $3,000. Why is that? It's because they're exclusive, right? People want to be seen by it. And so when you start to build up that fear of missing out, you have a ton of credibility, and that really starts to build up your business as a whole. Still good? Ready to jump on the next one? Okay. We're at 12:30, so I want to keep flying through this. Where and for who should I be posting, right? Here's my simple slide for like what you should say for specific like age groups, right? Facebook, generally 45 plus. Instagram, 25 to 45. LinkedIn, 25 plus. It's all over the map right now. TikTok and Snapchat for younger than 25. And somebody asked how often you should post. It's one of the most frequently asked questions. Post as much as you need to be relevant, but you need to be consistent, right? I really hate when people post content. It's really great and they disappear for 2 months because they got busy, right? Hire an agency, hire an intern. There's so many different ways to make sure you remain consistent. You just have to build a calendar ahead of time, right? It doesn't have to be daily sporadic posts. You build things ahead of time to make that happen. And then there's so much data that says photo and video perform so much better than just text. Always add photo and video to your content. Lastly, how do we measure success, right? We just ran a social media plan. Well, what didn't? Did I hit my goals? What are my follow-up scenarios, right? What do we need to do differently next time? And that's my quick summary, right? What are your business goals? Who is our audience? What content will drive interest? Where should I be posting? And how do we measure success? That's the most simple form of a creative brief that I can talk to you guys about. I have more stuff and I have like 30% of the presentation left, but do we have any questions at this current juncture? Cool. Okay. So the two types of social media campaigns that redthread runs, right? We run a brand building campaign and we run a digital lead gen campaign. So think about that as like B2B recruiting. So I want to talk about a brand building campaign, right? But it also had a lead gen component because we were trying to achieve a specific type of success. So let's break this down through one of our clients. Who's heard of Round the Bend Steakhouse before? Yes, no. They're in Ashland, Nebraska. Does anyone know what Round the Bend Steakhouse is known for?
Testicular Tuesday. What is the Testicle Festival?
That's correct. They're home to the Testicle Festival. So Round the Bend Steakhouse is hilariously known for the Testicle Festival, right? So here's a project we were signed by them to make this event awesome, right? So this event has been going on for 23 years and they bring in an average about $38,000 for 2 days, right? That's great for a restaurant, almost $20,000 a day. That's really cool. And they're like, hey, we're gonna spend about $30,000 with redthread. We're gonna put our chips on the table and then we're gonna grow our sales to $70,000. It's year one, we're working with them. So they really want to kind of break even, but they really want to make sure that they can grow and see a growth in revenue so we can work with them in the future. So talking about our audience for this event, I'm kind of going through the creative brief. What's the audience, right? Small town, generally skew Republican, high humor tolerance, and they spend a lot of time on Facebook, right? It's a 45 plus crowd. We wanted to break that down and make that very specific. And so then we asked ourselves, what marketing plan will drive interest for my event? Well, we produced a video that did really well and drove the interest that we needed. So take a look.
Come on, man. Told you to tape those to your leg. Ugh. Why were they wet?
So I hope you guys got a kick out of that. All right. That's our dark humor for the day. And that got a lot of laughs at the Grow Nebraska conference. I'm sorry if that offended you. Just want to make sure you guys thought that was hilarious. So where and for who should I be posting, right? So one of the things we did is this is a 2-day festival and we just want to make sure we showed how awesome the first night was. And so what we did is we filmed all day on the first day, which is generally a small day because it's on a Friday night, and then Saturday is a big like extravaganza. So we actually filmed the first day of the Testicle Festival and we posted that content the day of. I won't show you guys the whole video, but just so bunch of fun stuff, but it was like about a 90-second cut. We put it together in a couple hours that evening after the festival was over. We launched it. That blew up on Saturday. And then we actually wanted to see, how did we do, right? We drove a bunch of like social media ads to get it hyped up for that first video. We shot a day of video to make sure it was awesome. We posted a bunch of content the first day, fireworks with the ball lighting contest. The results of 2018, we had a goal of $70,000. We ended up getting them $136,000 for a 2-day event. And just understand this is an event that's been going on for 23 years. It gets about $40,000 in revenue a year. So to get to 136K was a pretty big win for us. And that's really cool. One they want to fly through just so we can get to Q&A because it's usually get a lot of questions. Let's talk about Kawasaki, right? So Kawasaki came to us.
Subway cars here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Let me go back. Don't look yet. I don't want to go back. So Kawasaki came to us and they said, hey, we need to recruit employees for our Lincoln and our Missouri plants. We need 5,000 applications the next 3 years. And I don't know if you guys know about our current status, our population, but Nebraska does not have Nebraska and Missouri do not have 5,000 people to then spontaneously start a career in manufacturing. So what we want to do is talk about how great Kawasaki is and all the great stuff they have going on. And so we did a very straightforward campaign that talked about how great their life is, right? They're currently, a lot of manufacturing people are building valves at certain plants. We want to talk about how cool Kawasaki is by building jet skis, ATVs, New York City subway cars. And so we launched that campaign. I'll tell you guys about their success here in a little bit.
We build subway cars here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
When I came in here, I didn't speak any English. I was afraid first, like, how I'm gonna work if I don't know the job. But when I came in here, actually it was totally different.
I feel like it's a place that I can really be myself and I can get along with others in and outside of work.
We're the best in the country at what we do, and I would love to show you how to do it.
So we shot these quick little social media snippets, created a bunch of graphics about the starting wage, how you can grow your career, built a microsite that'll that all the social media went to. So you know how I talk about add a call to action. Well, here's a microsite called workatkawasaki.com. Here's some posters we put up around town. And we also just wanted to show you just a mix of all the work we did. And the results of 2022 so far, this campaign's not over, but we've seen a 42% increase in applications. We made an article in the New York Times alongside Allo, which is also we're doing a lot of recruiting work for, and it's been spectacular. And the plant for the first time is 98% full. When we started, I think they were around like 60% full. So this has been a really good campaign, and I want you to know this has all been done through social media and following the process that I went through with you guys today. Last minute social media marketing advice in 2022. Ready? Quick rapid fire. Create a good brand that'll last for years, right? Marketing is so important to invest in long term because it's so important because it's the most forward facing part of your company, right? There's no time to sit there and be like, yeah, let me try and manage this on myself, but I'm going to half-ass it and it just doesn't go well. So the one thing I'll encourage you guys to do is hire a talented agency, right? Of course, I'd love for you guys to call redthread, but I promise you there's talented agencies in Nebraska that can help grow your company. That's why we exist. That's why we're here. It's to grow the company. And it brings legitimacy to your brand when you look and sound put together. Most qualified agencies should be able to do that for you. Social media ads are important. They're cheap, they're effective, they're laser targeted, right? You want to put an ad on your CEO's house of equipment dealer, you could do that. That is a possibility. So just understand there's potential there. What does R&D stand for? Rip off and duplicate, right? I see so many times, most people say R&D stands for research and development. I say rip off and duplicate, right? There's so many brands out there that are already doing this. You don't need to reinvent the wheel necessarily. See who's doing it well. How do you emulate them and how do you create it your own, right? Somebody's already accomplished what you're trying to do. So why would you try and build it from scratch if you're running out of ideas, right? Look at your competitors, look at parallel industries. There's so many different ways you can use their current content for inspiration. And then always ask yourself, what went well and what didn't, and how do you improve next time? So that's what I got for you guys today. I want to make sure we spend some time on Q&A, but that's my quick 101 on social media marketing. So thank you everyone for listening. There's a bunch of stuff in the chat that I can't see, but thank you, Tanya, for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you for hopping on and, giving us this great presentation. I watched it at Market Tech and I also enjoyed it this time. But Chelsea did have a question. She said, if I currently use Shopify, but in the future want an overhaul of my website, does redthread do updates for Shopify, or will you recommend I switch platforms to WordPress or others?
This is a question in chat.
Yes.
Okay. If you currently shop in the future. Yeah, so it depends on what you're trying to sell, right? So if you're an e-commerce company and your entire system is built off Shopify, which I know a lot of organizations can only use Shopify, right, to actually make sure their system actually works. That is something that I continue to rely on, right? Shopify continues to grow and add improvements every day. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is WordPress is the best option. We've built a ton of websites on WordPress that I promise you it's not the best use of your time and money right now, right? So right now we're currently building a ton of websites on Shopify, and we're currently building a ton of websites on a new platform that most of you have probably not heard of called Webflow. Webflow is currently stealing a ton of WordPress's market share because the issue with WordPress right now is the entire websites are stood up by a bunch of third-party developer plugins. Are you guys tracking? I'm using a bunch of industry jargon. Okay, so a bunch of third-party developer plugins, right? And so let's say some company from India builds this calendar plugin, and then they decide, oh, this is boring, I don't want to do this anymore, stop supporting the plugin, and the website crashes, right? That's why people put agencies on hosting retainers. Webflow does all the plugins that WordPress offers, but they do it under the Webflow brand. So you're no longer pulling in random apps from different parts of the entire world to try and make sure your website stands up. It's actually under one roof. So if you guys are trying to just build a general corporate website, I'd really recommend Webflow. We build a lot of websites on Webflow. So if you guys ever need something, please call us. Greg, like the thumbs up for Webflow. You know what you're talking about. But really, I'd encourage everyone to really stay away from WordPress right now. It's not in the best state. And Shopify is really, I really do like what Shopify is doing. I've never built on Shopify before, but I know a lot of my team has.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap anything up? If not, I know, I believe that Zoe, she sends out our follow-up. So she'll be able to, I think she'll attach Adam's email. So if you wanted to get in contact with him, you're able to do that. It does look like Kayla is wanting to hop on and ask a question. Kayla, you can do that.
Can you hear us? Can you hear me? I didn't turn on my video. I did hear you at the Market Tech and I thought you did great. And so I'll start our video. So I have my team in here, a couple of them in here that have them come in and listen to it as well. I just had two things that I had a question on. We do have a WordPress website, and what you said about plugins is 100% spot on, because we have all these plugins and we're actually talking about switching over to Shopify. And because of that reason, because this plugin doesn't get along with this plugin, or this plugin causes this one not to work, and it's a complete nightmare. So I didn't know if you had any recommendations, if you do think Webflow would be a better option to switch to, or would Shopify be?
I would say, what kind of business are you in?
We're in Nebraska, Star Beef.
Star Beef. Okay, so I assume a lot of your purpose of your website's a lot of like e-commerce sales.
E-commerce sales, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would recommend Shopify at that point, especially if you're so e-commerce focused. I really think that it's a amazing platform that gives it's pretty user friendly too, right? I mean, there's agencies that build specific Shopify websites, but I really think long-term Shopify is going to reign supreme for e-commerce. And so I'd just moving there. Webflow I recommend more for like the corporate website build of the world, right?
Gotcha.
When you're trying to say we're an insurance company, right? They're not going to sell their product online. They just need to tell their corporate organizational story. So that'd be my recommendation.
Okay, my second question is, we use Hootsuite for posting a lot of our posts and stuff. Is it better to post directly into the platform or to use a third party like that? What are your recommendations on that?
Yeah, so the last time I used Hootsuite was in 2013, I believe, when I was at Bailey Lauerman. The issue we had with it at the time was it wasn't adapting the content appropriately, meaning that for some reason, like if we post like an image, it would be weird or something like that because it wasn't optimized the image to the fullest potential. Have they fixed the bugs and like does it post like to exactly how you guys want it to look?
I think so, for the most part, yeah. Or like, what do you recommend as like the best one out there for social media if we're trying to be on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook? Facebook, we have definitely our biggest following is on Facebook, but we just started a TikTok and we're trying to grow that. And so just some weird things though, like my brother Chandler, he's getting a oversized noggin from his post, because every time he posts something on Instagram and he makes it on Instagram, it will get like 200 likes. Anybody else, but he makes it in Instagram and posts it from Instagram. But like if I do a video and I make it in TikTok and then I post it over to Instagram, it doesn't get near as many likes.
those damn algorithms, right? So the fun part about this world is like all these social media platforms just want you to use like that app natively. So this has not been confirmed. This is not science. This is just Adam's opinion. Is they, I think, intentionally throttle certain posts depending on if you post in the app natively or not, right? So if you have the time and capacity to go into each platform and just post that content, I mean, the benefit that we have is I have 4 digital marketing managers on staff who just kind of manage ad sets all day long on the back end of Facebook platforms, Google, and basically Instagram and any other platform. I would recommend, if you have the time, just go in those apps directly and post them, just because I assume they may place a little bit more emphasis if you're using the app natively. That is not backed by science. That's not backed by anything besides the fact that Instagram just wants you to log on to Instagram to use all this stuff.
Well, it's just weird because it's
Yeah.
but the problem is if you have to make the video in the platform. Like he'll make the Instagram reel in Instagram, but then if you take that one and put it in TikTok or Facebook, it doesn't get near as much attention. So it's like you have to recreate every one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I would say, I mean, right now, I mean, if you guys are seeing where the whole world is trending, I assume my guess is being like I assume you're like a high quality beef company, right? So you're probably looking at more disposable income type of demographic. I mean, Facebook would be a great bet for you, obviously. But the thing that we're noticing is an overall trend, though, TikTok has just been dominating, right? All the attention has been so focused on that platform that if you can sell your product to a 25-year-old and younger, that is a place to be right now. Just because of the cost, just because of the attention it gets. But I would say, I mean, I would say if you were to bet on anything right now, I think Facebook's a really good bet, right? It's not the sexiest, it's not the coolest, it's stupidly functional. Right.
Gotcha.
And I think I assume a lot of the people and do you have any like pixels attached to any of your website links at this point?
Yeah, we do.
Do you see where do they mainly come from? Do you know?
I think like California, Florida,
California, Florida, Texas.
Do they have a specific like path you follow? Do you're like, oh, they're coming from like Facebook or they're coming from Instagram?
Oh, yeah, Facebook, 100%.
Facebook, 100%
yeah.
Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know looking at the cool like Gen Z millennial people in your office, right? I mean, they like Facebook's not the coolest thing in the world, but just understand and make stuff happen.
Right.
And I would say for sure post content on there. And I think there's nothing wrong with continuing to build followings on Instagram and TikTok in the background, but still at the end of the day, it's going to come through Facebook.
Okay.
So I would spend my time there if I were you.
Last question.
No, this is great.
Do you have any big advice about how to grow like your followers on TikTok? Like we just started it, so we only have like 49, but it feels like most of them are like bots. so how do you know, like any recommendations there?
Yeah, the TikTok algorithm is kind of a mystery right now. I mean, I think here you want to hear another crazy conspiracy theory? I'm going to throw at them. So I think the reason why is anyone just like from a non-brand perspective, just an engaged TikTok user? Do you use it yourself, Kayla?
I don't use it.
You don't?
None of my people, they're afraid because the Chinese are following them. So
I mean, going back to my whole Big Brother comment, I mean, TikTok's leading the charge in that, right?
Right.
I think this is a crazy theory that's not been confirmed. I've read about this in some social media forums I'm on, but I think they literally have people, I don't know if it's in China or where it'd be in the world, but I think they have people manually going into some of these videos that don't have hashtags or relevant descriptions and intentionally describing them in the back end, right? There's no reason, if I'm interested in skiing, right? And there's a video that's about skiing that has no hashtags, no description about skiing, there's no reason why that should be appearing in my feed constantly. It doesn't make any sense about how they're directing such relevant content to my behavior, but they've managed to pull it off. There's no meta tags on it. There's nothing. And I'm like, how are they seeing this? How do they know that I want this content? And they're doing so good at just feeding me content that I just happen to like. That's the most bizarre. That's the reason why this platform's exploding is spend a couple of days in there. I promise you it'll find what you like. And Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Tanya's nodding her head, but I mean, have not accomplished the level of specifics content that TikTok has actually created. It's incredible. So to grow your following, to answer your question specifically, is I I don't think anyone has a good grasp on how the algorithm shows specific content to people. So what I would do if I was in your shoes is just continually post a bunch of content on TikTok, but you never know when one ad goes viral, right? I see so many pages that have like 200 views on most of their videos, and then one video has 6.2 million.
Right.
You never know which one will catch fire, and TikTok allows you to do that. But I know some businesses that have literally made their entire living off just TikTok and just pushing ads in there constantly. And it's so cheap right now. I would encourage you to spend whatever money you can to make all that happen.
That's what I was gonna ask, if you think it's worth it to put any money behind any of the stuff on TikTok.
100%. But TikTok, paid is great. Organic does a lot of great work too. I mean, lucky for you guys have like a cool, sexy product, right? It's not like, I'm not taking shots at anyone specific. It's not like a dull, like industry that people don't want to talk about. People like food. People really, there's a lot of emotional connections to food and beef, right? And so when you talk about that, there's a ton of opportunities you guys can do to just be relevant and trendy, and you never know which one's going to catch fire. So I'd say follow the trends. I'd encourage all you guys. I know it's Big Brother. I know it's a Chinese app. I've heard all that, but it's like, use it as a user, right? You'll see specifically what's trending right now. You'll see songs, you'll see specific trends. It's such a delightful piece of part of daily lives. That's why it's getting so much traffic, right? You're watching the Gen Z time on TikTok has tripled within the last year. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, it's just like, there's a few frustrating things, like unless you have 1,000 followers, you can't link your website onto TikTok. You have to have a minimum of 1,000 followers. So it's just like weird stuff like that. So it's like, okay, well, how do I get more followers? Unless you grow them organically. So
yeah, I would say just keep posting content. You will get to 1,000 followers quicker than you imagine, right? It's just, there's so much time being spent in that. I promise you'll get follows. And just do go back to my hack, right? Do a giveaway for a free cut of meat or something like that to someone local. So you have to follow and you have to comment someone's name to be entered. It'll cost you $20.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we've done that, and that's how we grew our websites to send out, our email following list. But then it's like, I feel like we were growing the wrong crowd. Like we were getting people that would never buy from us, but they just wanted the free some, So it's like, where's the give and take on that, or, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean, I think just trial and error. That's the best thing I can tell you is, I mean, you guys have a cool brand, people will like it. Just post relevant stuff, and I encourage you guys to get on as just consumers and see what you like and see what you don't like. But chances are you can latch onto something and just be one of the first people. And I promise you, if you do this enough, you will get one piece that goes viral, especially on TikTok.
Yeah, I think I need to ask Chandler to post it, right, my brother? So then he can.
I don't want the egotistical brother to drive your social media presence. You just got this, right?
So, no, I appreciate it. Sorry if I took everybody's time that wanted to talk. So, but yeah.
It was great. Did someone say else?
Yeah, I know Greg had a question. We probably have time for one more. So Greg, you're good to ask.
Oh, you're muted, Greg. Oh, Greg, you're muted.
All right. Yeah, you
Hey.
think the tech guy would be able to unmute himself, right?
No, it's okay.
So I'm in an industry that's more B2B and, has been accused of being boring.
It's okay.
So I wondered, particularly, do you guys work with smaller companies as well? We're kind of a 25-year-old startup.
That's awesome.
And we just recently started doing a lot of social media, trying to get the free stuff by doing live streams every Friday afternoon. But we're trying to build a following of particularly rural entrepreneurs.
Awesome.
Basically the ones that seem to get left behind because the larger players aren't really interested in them. So yeah, I just want to know if you dealt with smaller companies, because that's kind of where we want to go.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Sorry.
No, we could definitely have a conversation. I always tell people don't like us because we're cheap. They like us because we do really good work. So,
Mhm.
if there's a marketing budget that you guys have in mind, that's a discussion I'd love to have with you and talk about what that looks like. Most of our projects, so I'll give you guys some numbers just to give you an idea what that looks like. So if we're doing like an a la carte project, you're like, hey, we need a new website, we need a new video, we need this design. We just bid that on an a la carte basis, right? Some of it can range from $5,000 to $25,000, depending on what that looks like. If we're doing a marketing plan, we're like, hey, we need a B2B lead gen campaign. Our minimum for that is $50K because that includes the creative fees and media spend. And so we love helping small companies, but if the campaign seems too expensive, we do stuff on like an a la carte basis too. So I always tell people we're never the cheapest in town, but dang it, you'll get the best price or best value for what we created in town.
Mhm. Well, if we can get a 1 for 4, then I'd pay that all day long, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, it's an investment, right? I always tell people, like, one of the most frequently asked questions we get is like, what do you expect the return to be? And I'm like, let me make this very clear. Marketing is a gamble, right? You should always, unless you do something incredible like this PR nightmare, all businesses move in the right direction when they invest in marketing. How much is to be determined, right? That's something you'll figure out over the course of the years. I mean, we've gotten to a science at this point with our client, like Chief Buildings. They know if they spend drop $25,000 into an ad set. This is once we already built the campaign. They know that that'll produce, I don't know, 200 applications, right? And so it's more like a scientific approach, and it's something we've collected from data from working for them for 5 years. And so it's almost a science saying we need 200 applications. We're going to spend X amount to get those 200 applications. So once you start to invest in marketing enough, you'll be able to say, I know if I spend $300 in Facebook ads, it'll generate 2 leads. I'll close one of those leads. That'll be worth $6,000 a month to me on a small business retainer type of thing. So, I mean, if you're in IT, IT's a really lucrative industry. We do a lot of work with data vision, and I understand the business model pretty well. And they make a pretty penny, right? Because they understand how to actually talk to their customers. So I want to mention everyone too. I put my email in the chat, but Greg, I'd love to sit down with you and talk to you about that if you're interested in something too.
Yeah, I'd be interested in working out something because we did develop a program that is specifically for the mom and pop 1 to 3 user company that, we're just trying to really democratize IT for folks. And we just need a little bit of help with building out our Facebook campaigns in a pre-launch basis. So yeah, let's talk. We'll give you a buzz.
That's exciting. I put my email in there. If you don't want me to email, do you want to email me?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Sounds good. Put my email in the chat. Tiny, I know you're going to kick me off, but is there anyone else who has any quick questions? If not, we can. You feel free to text me, email me, all that good stuff. Add me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. It's all good.
All right, awesome. Well, I want to thank Adam again for presenting for us. Just a couple quick notes. We do have a couple more upcoming trainings. So August 18th, we have one coming up. It's Delegate to Accelerate, How to Do Less and Achieve More with Purpose. And then August 25th, How to Make Your Digital Marketing Matter. Then we have our Grow with Google series. That happens August 3rd. And it's to make better business decisions with Google Analytics. And that's available in Spanish and English. And then lastly, we have our Marketing Monday tips. So you don't want to miss out. So every first Monday live on Facebook, and then every last Monday live on Instagram. And the lives begin at noon. And you could win a free coaching session if you're a member with Grow, or a t-shirt for non-members. And so hop on and get just a quick Marketing Monday tip. But you guys are all free to go. If you have any questions, I'll stay on for just a second. But have a good rest of your Thursday.